Hello everyone. Yeah, good morning. Welcome to my channel Explore and run by NK. So today I'll talk about this RAML versus OAS. So when we need RAML and when we need to use OAS, Open API Specification. So which one is good? So we'll talk about today RAML versus Open API Specification. So as we know that RAML stands for RESTful API Modeling Language and OS is Open API Specification. So actually there is a classic debate in the API world. So which one is better? And while both of them do the same job, right? Defining how an API looks and feel and acts, right? And their personalities are very different. So the basic question is when we need to use RAML and when we can use OS. So the core difference is RAML is managed by mulesoft. The first difference is which is ownership is with mulesoft, while open source and it is a native language of independent platform, right? But Open API is managed by Open API Initiative, which is a Linux Foundation, and it is globally industry standard. And the philosophy of RAML is for design first and built to help architects model an API before a single line of code is written. So before we write an implementation or write a single line of code, we can design the API specification. And for OS, it's a documentation first, built to describe existing APIs and power ecosystem tools. And as far as the reusability is concerned, so RAML is superior. So we can use traits and API fragments and resource type to avoid repeating code. And for OS, it's functional, right? We can use a $ref to reuse and components, which is powerful and can be more, verbose. And for format, as far as the format is concerned, so strictly RAML is based on YAML, optimized for we can say optimized for human readability. And for OpenAPI, yeah, we can use YAML or JSON as well. So we understood, right? RAML is managed by MuleSoft, but OpenAPI specification is managed by OpenAPI Initiative, which was Linux Foundation. So it's a little bit tricky. So which one we need to use? We need to choose, right, between a popular with these things. So both define how an API behaves, but they approach the tasks with different philosophies, which I just explained. So RAML is based on design first and reusability, and OS is documentation first. So we earlier it was known as Swagger. So this is the basic difference I have documented RAML versus OAS. So just for your information, nowadays even MuleSoft is also encouraging to use OpenAPI specification instead of RAML because of this, AI innovation, so that OS is widely used with all tech stack. So for RAML, as I defined that design first, and then OpenAPI specification is documentation, and the RAML is managed by MuleSoft, and it is managed by OpenAPI initiatives. In later part, yeah, I'll just show how what are the syntax in RAML and OS, how it is different. So these are all your reusability, ecosystem, and format, mm, which we just understood. So OS formerly it is known as Swagger. I think you all must aware of Swagger, right? So both describe REST APIs and both uses RAML, and while OS can use JSON as well, and both support the all entire API lifecycle. So this is descriptive and standard is this OS, and RAML is modeling and design first, right? And so why OS is the winner? I mean, because OS is widely used by, I mean, all, irrespective of the technology. So it is market dominance. So OAS has effectively won the API specification war. So most modern tools, from security scanners to automated testings or suites, are prioritize OS support, and it is having universal capability. So if we want to move our application or API from MuleSoft to different platform, so OS will work instantly. RAM will require rewrite conversion step or rewrite the API specification. And it is much easier to find developers for OS, and RAML is basically for MuleSoft ecosystem. So, and they have improved this OS. 3.1 is also released, so it has adopted many of the best features of RAML. And when we should use RAML? So RAML is also a very powerful language which is within the MuleSoft ecosystem. So if your entire ecosystem is built on MuleSoft, so RAML is the best option, right? So it offers slightly smoother design experience within any point design center, and a heavy design modeling. So if we are building a massive enterprise API with hundreds of endpoints and want maximum reusability, so a RAML traits and resource type API fragments, these are the best to use. So yeah, and now I'll just show how it is different. So in the left hand side, you can see this OS. I have created one endpoint with this user and slash ID. ID is a URI param. So in the left hand side, if you see, it starts with Open API, the version 3.0. We can use 3.10 as well. And title we have to mention and version. So in RAML, we have slash and then the endpoint name. But in this OS, we have to it starts with paths. So it starts with path, and we can have endpoint name and then followed by the URI param if any. But here, if you see in URI param, we have in different line. So hierarchically, it's a little bit different. And if you see here, get and then summary parameters, we can see here how we have defined, and then responses. So, and here, if you see get and then responses directly, and properties we have defined, right? So, and the best, I mean, one of the best important features of RAML is the trait. So this is how I have just tried to demonstrate. So this is how we can define the traits, right? RAML and then title, traits, secured, headers, and this is for error handled responses. This is two traits I have added, secured and error handled, right? And this is how we can use with the using of is keyword. So secure and error handlers with the get methods, and for orders, yeah, orders also we have used. But in OS, it is being used as a ref, right? So if you see here, products and then get parameters. Here with the using of $ref keyword, I have given this components parameters in API key headers, and for 404 components responses are not found. Now here I have added this components and then parameters, because it is the components inside the parameters. We have two reference API key header and not found. So first one is API key header. So X API key, then it is in, and then schema is a string. And for responses, if you see here, not found, description resource not found. So if we can check in the Swagger view online. If you see here, I think we should start with this. So if you see here, yeah, um, users and then ID, and then we can test here, try it out. One, two, execute. We can try it out using this Swagger online editor, right? Now, if I want to use this, so we can just, so products, API key, if I don't provide, execute, right? So this is how we can use, it's almost very, I mean, similar to RAML, but there are some only, reference and other things are a little bit different. So we should start using OAS instead of RAML if we can. If we don't have, any dependency of any reusability and all, right? So hope you like it, and please do subscribe my channel and share with your friends, right? Thanks a lot. Thank you. Happy learning. Bye.